Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Agency Side Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Levinson. Today, I'm chatting with Glenn Ginsburg, president of QYOU Media. Glenn has had a really interesting journey going from traditional media and entertainment into the creator and influencer marketing world, way before people saw where things were heading. We talk about his path from Marvel, Comedy Central, and Disney to helping brands like Paramount Pictures, Hulu, and Warner Brothers connect with audiences through creators and social platforms. We also get into how influencer marketing is changing, what brands are still getting wrong about this space, and where Glenn thinks things are headed next. If you're interested in media, creator marketing, culture, and hearing a really thoughtful perspective on where the industry is going, this conversation is for you. Hey, Glenn, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
Hey, Justin, glad we could make this happen. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a conversation with somebody that I have a little bit of a background with before, loosens things up a little bit. But like I always do here on the podcast, I want to just get into the origin story. You have a really interesting background. We kind of discussed before going from like traditional media all the way to influencer marketing. How the heck did you get here?
Yeah. Well, first, Justin, I'm glad that we're reconnecting. It's always been a pleasure working with you. So thank you so much for the support. Yeah. I mean, how far back do you want me to go?
Back to birth, Glenn.
Well, I mean, kind of no joke because I was thinking a little bit about this, but I remember as a kid, my father would say, I was living in New York, grew up in New York, and he would say, go to Hollywood and make movies. Right. And reflecting back later, it's like, I'm sure it was more of a projection on him of like, things that he wished he did in his life. And it just so happens that then I ended up eventually moving to Hollywood and, through various happenstance and, our first work, and we work with all the major studios now, but, and sure, there's a lot of happenstance that I don't think it was from those very words, but it did teach me from a very early in life to really go after the things that you enjoy. So other people I hear in their career, they've done time doing something they don't want to do so they can get to the things they want to do. I've always been very uncompromising when it comes to, and I always feel like it's best do the things that you're passionate about, and then opportunities will come from that. So just a little, we're going way back.
Yeah.
But, fast forward, I guess, and a little bit aligned with that. After I left school, after I left college, I went to BU. A lot of people would say, hey, you got to get on the career track. And instead, I did a 3-year international stint, spent 6 months in Australia and 2.5 years in Tokyo. And so it was in Tokyo that I got my first job in media. I mean,
Wow.
after realizing I didn't enjoy teaching English, so that was an early life lesson. Learn. I always say to folks in their 20s, learn what you don't like as much as what you like. So I got my first job in media there, selling in a magazine and newspaper that served the English speaking communities in Tokyo and Yokohama, and found that I had a in that somehow. It was new to me. And then when I came back after, it was time to come back, multiple reasons, but, that sounded nefarious. It wasn't. But, I remember then going, all right, well, what do I want to do now? And, the funny thing is you can cut this stuff too if it's not as valid, but, I remember going to the library back when you would go to libraries, and there was a huge career book, and I literally went through page after page and just it stopped at one point on executive. And it was like a picture of a guy with, in that time, it was a big cell phone and a car. Like, yes, that's what I want to do. And so that's kind of been a little bit of a guiding light for me. But I ended up in my first job back in the US was working for Marvel Comics. And it kind of dovetailed off of my experience that I had in Japan selling ads. And so selling ads in the comics and newspaper in the comics and magazines for Marvel, which was a dream for me going back to the do what you like. I grew up, Spider-Man and just a Marvel universe fan. So did that for a few years, had the opportunity to break into TV. So I was at USA Networks and Sci-Fi Channel, then broke off and kind of did something again back to the non-traditional. Started my first startup at a very interesting company. What I learned from that one was the difference between what's cutting edge and what's bleeding edge. But this was the early days of the internet, and me and my partner, we envisioned that someday entertainment was going to be distributed online, right? On so
Called it.
so like when we're talking like 1994 is probably about that time that I started this, and we created an original show that we developed. It was called Whirl Girl, a female superhero in the future. For our time, it was very successful. We ended up licensing it to Showtime networks. MTV networks took on the licensing rights, and it was really coming. It was coming at our height. We had billboards for World Girl over Times Square and in print.
Wow.
So that definitely gave me the startup and kind of early internet experience. But around 2000, when the crash happened, the kind of the internet bubble burst, and pretty much broke at that point, I ended up getting a job at Comedy Central at Viacom and was there for 7 years, really during it was after the internet bubble burst, which meant now it was time to get down real work and develop real businesses. And so helped develop that for comedy, then moved to LA and started working for Disney. It was really so yes, my background has very much been on the traditional media and entertainment side, but even so, even in all of these, it's always about what was kind of I was more of the internal entrepreneur, right? The one trying to figure out where our audience is really doing, how are they really engaging, and how can we build businesses around that? This has really been my strength. And then I would say at Disney is when I first started working with those early creators before they were called influencers, before that term was coined, those first creators on YouTube that were building audiences, and they were, disintermediating the traditional media companies by forging these direct relationships with their audiences. And, it was really then when that light bulb went off, and, it became more and more apparent to me that at some point, and TV, of course, was dominant, um, but that at some point that social was going to be the place where audiences aggregate, and that this new set of creators were going to be the conduits to those audiences. And so that really that and a few other things. I went to that first VidCon years ago, and I saw the screaming kids when a creator would walk by, and it just kind of all just
Mm.
kind of flashed. I'm like, this is what's next, and kind of really set that kind of second part of my career. And from there, it was really just helping the early MCNs, so like Big Frame and others, with their strategy and their sales strategy. And then it came to a point where I was pulled into Q Media, not doing what we are currently do, which is, supporting brands, on campaigns and creative marketing and creative, lots of different things. But back then I was pulled in because of my relationships with creators. And the idea was to license their libraries to create TV products. And
Mm.
that was all well and good, and I had a team that was doing that. Kinda ended up starting a little bit of a side business, right? Based on my relationship from Disney, a buddy of mine was running marketing for DreamWorks, and, called me up and said, "Hey, Glenn, I'm trying to reach, the Minecraft community on YouTube for Kung Fu Panda 3." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we can absolutely help with that." Campaign launched, very, very successful. Started picking up a couple more movies, and fast forward to today. At a certain point, it was like that other business that we started with. Well, that's not the business anymore, Glenn. Now, you came in as kind of a SVP. Now you're going to run the whole thing. And so I was brought up to president at Q, and have been really building our creator marketing practice since. So that's the
Yeah.
full history. Going back to childhood.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And I sort of have a similar. Yeah, my parents always kind of taught me like don't have a backup plan. You know what I mean? Like because it means you don't believe in your original plan if you have the backup plan. So I always sort of grew
Totally.
up with a similar mentality. Yeah, that's a really interesting like how you got there. Maybe you could tell our viewers. I know you kind of told us a little bit about QU, but maybe just for folks who might not know, can you tell us just a little bit about what you guys are doing over there? Thanks for tuning in, folks. This episode is brought to you by Coming Up Creative, a relationship first boutique creative recruitment agency. We disrupt the creative ecosystem by running sophisticated, multi channel campaigns with custom video and voice outreach that actually gets responses. We actively market the agencies and brands we represent to help them stand out to today's industry's top talent, all backed by real human connection and AI powered targeting. If you're ready for a modern recruitment approach, visit www.comingupllc.com and get started today.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the easiest way to describe is we're an influencer marketing agency. I don't want to minimize because we do a lot more than that. But, you know, we help brands with creators, creative strategy to really make a cultural impact on social platforms for a variety of their initiatives. I'd just say from the onset, especially with my media background, it's really always been about trying to build the best mousetrap, right? What is the best way to leverage creators and social platforms to create the most impact, campaigns and efforts to reach those audiences in impactful ways. And so now, we work with some leading brands. I mentioned already we work with most of the major theatrical studios, but our business has really expanded throughout all of entertainment, from streaming to broadcast and still heavily doing features. We do that domestically. We do it for our partners on a global basis, but we've expanded out heavily into gaming, which is also a great category, as well as beauty, CPG, automotive. So while we're heavily wedded in entertainment, the mindset has always been Q can help brands reach and deliver in the most effective way any brand that needs to reach an existing community on a social platform. So that's been our mindset. So it's really great to see that our business is expanding into lots of different key categories.
How do you do it? How do you how do you do this whole campaign and connect all these people and make something that resonates with culture and is successful? What the whole campaign sort of looks like? Like in my imagination, I see like either you've reached out to a brand or a brand reaches out to you and is like, we want to like you had mentioned about the Kung Fu Panda thing. Like you're trying to like connect to an audience. And I imagine that you were like, okay, and you go to a creator and you're like trying to like, I just curious of like what it sort of looks like, in like if I'm looking at a funnel and how the client goes from, their idea to working with you to whenever like the analytics and how it looks at the end, I guess, and what measures success is sort of what I'm curious about.
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer it this way is that, first of all, Q has built, our expertise really around 4 areas that are designed to basically be able to handle everything in as part of a campaign, right? So very strong strategy team that is working with the brand from the beginning, understanding what their KPIs and deliverables are, and translating that into a strategy to reach those audiences with the impact and effect that they're looking for. We have and we'll talk a little bit more about this. One very important, and I'd call it a differentiator with Q, is that we built a very strong creative studio team within the organization that sits between the brand and the creator that really ensures that on the brand side, all across the creative process, that the brand messaging is there, that the brand ethos is captured throughout the whole process, as well as on the creator side, really working with them on a much deeper level than other agencies work with them. Really, it's a hands-on partnership on the creative side to ensure that their content and what they're putting forth is, one, both elevated, and two, still authentic to their audience. And so that's been a very important step. Of course, creator, identification, licensing, and all of that contracting, all of that component, finding the right creators, and then media, which has become a really important component of creator marketing. So we really offer this as kind of an integrated basis, right? Because some shops may just offer, talent identification, or others might, but really what we have found, especially in the early phases of creator marketing, I think it's changed right? In the early phases when it was way more experimental and maybe it was just one person in an organization who kind of is tackling this, we really gave them the kind of the full service to we can go to Q and they're going to deliver everything to us from the vision all the way through. And now where it's, where creator marketing is much bigger and more institutionalized within a lot of big brands, I think that the same team and as we've grown has really served to become this white glove partner that they can just plug into. And it just feels like their team and we're handling, you know, all of that heavy lifting and all that complexity while still giving them their, the meaningful input as the brand stakeholders.
Do you think there's things that the brands still don't understand about this creator space and the value it can add?
I think look, this is the year, that really has been the watershed year for creator marketing. It really has moved from that experimental phase to a fully functioning institutionalized process for big brands. Right? There is a recognition of the importance and impact that this brings into reaching these very large audiences on social platforms. Right? We're talking, you know, if we just look at Meta, 250 million monthly active users, TikTok, 180 million. And then the YouTube properties also, the quarter million. So these are big, big audiences. Uh, so everyone is doing it. It's no longer a question. There's still a lot of flavors of it. Some brands look at it from a PR perspective, some from a media perspective, some from an affiliate. There's lots of different ways to tackle it. Um, uh, but I think that our methodology is such in our practice where we really marry the creative aspect of it with a media mentality. So it's got to look great. It's got to, have the right creators, the right mix, the right messaging. But on the other hand, it's got to perform, right? If you're going to take that investment and put it into working with us, we want to show that it is as effective, if not more effective than if they put that investment elsewhere. And so measurement and applying, um, media models to it, bringing those together really makes it the kind of the art and science piece of it.
What kind of metrics are tracked typically, to kind of know if it's success and if a client gets an or like ROI on the campaign?
Yeah, I mean, it could range based on the needs of the brand, at the base levels, how many people are viewing it, but sometimes it's really about and often it's usually many metrics, but social sentiment has really risen as a really key indicator. So really measuring what the communities are saying based off of the campaign is key. But, if it's a conversion campaign, it may look like more media metrics of, return on ad spend, ROAS, or lower CPA. So everything from it could be brand lift. It really depends on what the goals are for any particular brand and campaign. And there's various sets of metrics that we measure based on those needs.
It's great. Any big wins that you'd be interested in sharing? Any standout campaigns in your career or anything that on that front you'd be interested in sharing?
I mean, good question. I mean, we do so many. We do I mean, we do so many campaigns. It's crazy. And again, we try and make sure each and every one is effective. I mentioned that we guarantee we do. I think we make guarantees on every campaign just to ensure that it's going to be as efficient and effective as somewhere else. And knock on wood, now that we've done this for 11 years, we've never underdelivered on a campaign.
Wow, that's amazing. What is the guarantee if I can ask, or maybe it's different for different
Yeah,
clients?
usually look, on the media side of it, at the very least, we look at what a CPM or cost per view would be if they invested in ad units, on YouTube. And, so we can compare the efficiency and impact of what we do. And we can say, all right, for this investment, you'll get a minimum of 3 million, 5 million, 20 million views. So whenever we've put that plan forth, we've always delivered on that.
Awesome. I love that.
But,
Obviously there's sorry, go ahead.
just to answer another thing to your question is kinda like we started out in feature films. I think we've probably worked on over probably 100 feature films in our time, but I'm really proud that that I'd say that with Scream 7, we just came out, and then Weapons were the last two big movies that both hit number one at the box office. But I think we're up to 31 or 32 number one box offices that we've supported. And so that's a real accomplishment. I'll say too that not only I'd say that have we been commercially successful, but it's also nice that we've had a lot of success too on the award side.
Yeah.
Last year, we were up for 12 awards and brought home 9 industry awards, and then this year, we're already up to 4 industry awards. And it's just kind of like talking about kind of what I'm proud of. A lot of the awards last year was for and, I've talked about, having this studio team that, sits between the brand and the creator to ensure that the creative is on point. But the natural kind of evolvement of that team has been developing new ways that brands, through storytelling, can reach audiences. We've created, I could call it a product, but an offering, something that we call digital stunts, where which won, I believe, all of our awards last year uh, for uh, for companies like Paramount and Hulu. But what that is it's a type of storytelling where we are leveraging multiple creators to tell a narrative over multiple posts in a given time. And so when the audience experiences it, they'll see a creator doing their thing, right? It's still authentic to them, but there's another story that's happening that leads to another channel and another creator and how they interact. And what we have found is that in creating these narratives that live above the creator posts, and these creators coming together to tell this broader story, really leads to just scaled engagement and excitement. And the creators love it being in themselves because it's kind of more of a higher produced type of content, and they're talking about it. So it really creates a lot of cultural buzz. And so
Brilliant.
I'm proud of those types of things that our creative teams really coming up with innovative ways to tell stories.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. What are some of the like challenges in the industry right now? Are there any things that you find that are different now or more difficult than they had been in the past?
You would think after 10 years that it gets easier, 11 years that it gets easier, and it's not, and it's okay because it's constantly changing, and it's always been a very quickly growing and innovating industry. Literally, the playbook from the quarter before is different in the next quarter.
Yeah.
But I'd say, look, from where I'm sitting right now, and I think that, look, and where Q sits is that we're really good at, the stuff that we've been talking about, identifying communities and finding the right creators and the right content and bringing it all together to create these compelling campaigns, right? Where the market is moving and with so much more investment, right? The challenge I have as president at Q is how do I scale this to that next level, right? And while maintaining the quality, and impact that we do. And so, this is the year, and I think I was saying, it's going to be a $37 billion market. And that's when I say that, I'm just talking about just what we do, which is brands collaborating with creators. Sorry.
No
Brand,
worries.
brands collaborating with creators and amplifying that content. That
Yeah.
alone is going to it's a bigger ad business than what the cable television network had at its peak.
Crazy.
And
That's awesome.
so for me, it's like, okay, we've got the units. We're so good at this, and we have got great partners from, you know, Kraft Heinz to Disney to Paramount to, Activision to a bunch of other really great brand partners, and we're doing so much great work with them. But the question is, how do we scale with the market and maintain that quality? It's still a wide open. There's other agencies out there, a lot of them. There's a lot of competition, but it's a really a wide open field. So my challenge right now is how do I become how do I strategically, serve more and, take more share?
Yeah. What do you look for in people that you bring onto your team?
It's a good question. Well, we've got a lot of different, groups within the org. I kind of mapped it out from everything from strategy to creative. They all have to be passionate. And they all have to believe in the Q story and what we're trying to accomplish. Devotion to that and hard work is probably it's an old principle, but one that we really value. I would say that the teammates are extraordinary. They're smart, they're young, they're dedicated, and um, especially in this business, the old Hollywood term of the show must go on, is alive and true. Is we have to get something done, and we have a big campaign launch. Everyone is, rolls up their sleeves. If we have to burn the midnight oil, we do. But it's that can-do attitude, openness for innovation, knowing that the things are going to be changing. Is to not have too much rigidity and to go with the flow. And those are some attributes, I think.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's any specific like roles in the creative I'm just always curious from a recruiter standpoint, are there any positions that you see are going to be in really high demand in this space in the future?
Just think about that for a second. I mean, we've got several people who play, you know, we definitely have our experts in certain areas, but the ones who can play across teams and not necessarily be a jack of all trades, but can really see how what the other teams need and bridge those gaps are really, really helpful. And I guess the person that pops in my head is our head of product. Right, and this is one that's gonna be really important to his name is Jay Sparks, I'm throwing it out there, Jace, he's our chief product officer, and he's the one that's currently tackling the platform, the technology side of Q. He's built this beautiful platform that initially was, "Hey, our clients need an active dashboard where they can go and see their campaigns," but it has, along with kind of the influx of AI, he's really been spearheading, how does this work organizationally? How does AI and data play into what Q does to not only provide our clients the best experience, but to also bring all of these powerful new tools available to us to make our business more efficient and more effective. So someone who can do their work, but also look to see how the entire organization can grow from.
That's cool. What's your favorite part of the gig? What do you like doing the most?
Yeah, I mean, my job has changed so much too, over the years, right? Before, again, when I started this, I was doing everything, every part of the process. And there was a brief period where I felt like I had a really good beat on all the creators out there and what they were doing, but now I've got teams that do that. For me, it's the challenge of really kind of what I was talking about how do we take Q and all of the success and all of our strengths and bring it to a broader, wider base of clients. And so, what that means to me is a lot more strategy work, also hiring and, who are the right players out there that can come and add value, a lot more higher level meeting with kind of brand leaders. So, I talk a lot more to kind of C-suite than I've ever had before, working more on the, PR side of business, how are we gonna get the message out wider and broader? So it keeps it very interesting and exciting for me because challenges are there and the opportunity. There's such opportunity to grow this business in a very frothy marketplace.
Did
So
your
that's
experience selling media in Japan, do you think it paid off? Did it feel like that set you up for success here?
Well, I mean, it's essentially the same thing. I mean, if you really boil it down, it's what really sparked my career path. It's that place between audiences and brands and how do you connect them in the most effective way? And that has been the core of what we do and what I do and the mission. And how do we make that the best possible connection?
Yeah.
And that's yes. So the answer is yes.
Yeah. It sounded very, yeah, a lot of parallels to what you're doing early on to what you're doing today. A couple, I guess one kind of final question is what do you like to do just personally outside of, doing the QU stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, first I would say number one is my daughter, right? Sophie, she's 16. Last week I was at the Possible conference in Miami, but then before coming back here, she was in a tennis tournament in Austin, so flew there. The truth is that she's been a big, guiding light for me for, part of the reason why when she was 4 or 5 years old, I was doing a lot of animated movies is because I wanted to be cool with her, right?
Yeah.
Now that she's 16, I'm doing more beauty and, so I'm not saying that I'm directly, picking my clients from her, but I definitely, dovetail. So I spend a lot of time, staying connected with her and, my immediate family. It's really important. I think something which is maybe notable for all audiences, for anyone who's listening to the pod, health really matters. I've I can definitely fall into the pattern of overwork, and waking up, start working, go to bed, and I've just been working the whole time, but I've been really forcing myself to go out and make sure that I'm active at least sometime every day. Um, I have a kind of a weird sport that I've picked up over the last few years. I love ever heard of disc golf?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it around. Yeah, that's for free. I've never played, but that's cool.
Well, come, there's a course right here in Culver City.
Sweet.
So I try and break out there, and it's great. So things like that,
Yeah.
health, family.
That's cool that you have a younger daughter to keep you hip and with the times and all that stuff.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and, and my partner has 2 sons, and so it's great to have kids. They do. They keep you relevant, right? And I've learned so much from them on what they watch and, how they interact and how they speak, and apply that to my work each and every day.
totally. My kids are. I have young 3 and 7, but I'm definitely cued in to that age group and what they're watching, what they like, and all that stuff. It's
Right?
kind of cool. I love it.
3, 7 is such fun years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense sometimes, but it's really cool.
Yeah,
I want to give a shout out to Elisa Newton, who actually introduced us, Glenn. So I
right.
know she's a colleague of mine, former colleague of yours, and
Yep.
it was great that she was able to make this connection.
Yeah, no, no, awesome. Love her. Yeah, we worked with her. We were both at Disney at the same time, and, yeah, and she's maintained a great relationship, so I'm glad she brought us together.
Yeah, real nice person, and thank her for that. But cool, Glenn. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting and offer some value to the community, and would love to have you on here again sometime in the future.
Great, Justin. Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care. Peace.